This is CBS.
Coming up next on the 10 p.m. report, a possible breakthrough in the Hormel strike.
And a definite drop on the stock market, falling more points today than it's ever done in its history. And your Kodak camera may now be obsolete because it was just too much like a Polaroid.
We will also get a break from our deep freeze. You bet we will. How does 35 degrees sound? And the sounds of Pinchas Zukerman will soon be missing from the St. Paul Orchestra.
The 10 p.m. report is coming up next.
These days, $1 will go a lot farther than you might think. Because right now, everything you see is on sale at Target for only $1. Positive that $1 still goes a pretty long way. The dollar sale at Target.
A new heart thumps in the chest of tiny Sarah, and this week's Picture Week shows how organ transplants are saving more and more kids. Then Picture Week looks back at how Archie Bunker changed television forever. New Picture Week from Time Life, packed with human interest stories like the governor romancing the movie star. Plus Movie Week, TV Week, and New Health Week. Just the right words, vivid pictures, and so much more. See for yourself, only 95 cents. Only 95 cents. How transplants are saving kids, plus all the lively stories in New Picture Week magazine.
Tom, it was me.
There's fun.
I'm going to go for it.
Fun and fantasy.
Yeah, I'm going to win, too. I've seen this. I've tried.
I think you're...
When exciting people bid
You may be right.
for big prizes.
I am looking for a winner.
Weekdays on The Price is Right. Weekdays. After Jeopardy!
You're going to go for it, go for it.
On Channel 4. You are watching WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is the 10 p.m. report.
Good evening, everyone. With tensions rising and a deadline drawing near, Governor Rudy Perpich is trying to head off a confrontation down in Austin.
Tonight, the governor proposed a neutral third-party step into the dispute between the largest employer and 1,500 strikers. That comes nearly 5 months after the strike against the Hormel meatpacking plant began and less than a week before Hormel planned to reopen the plant despite the strike. Mike Walsher has more on the governor's plan. Mike?
Well, Pat, tomorrow morning, State Mediator Paul Goldberg starts telephoning a list of about half a dozen people, none living in Minnesota, to enlist a neutral fact finder. Under the governor's proposal, that person would meet with both the company and the union and recommend a contract within 48 hours. The two sides then would have another 48 hours to accept the fact finder's contract or reject it. The governor met with both sides in the 5-month-old strike this week, and today he sent both company and union this letter in which he scolds them for, quote, the gulf which seems to separate you at this late date. Perpich also says he's incredulous and troubled by the apparent misunderstanding of the federal mediator's offer that was rejected by the union last week. Late today, the state mediator met with 2 retired Supreme Court justices and a University of Minnesota professor to start picking a non-Minnesotan to wade into the dispute.
If we can find a fact finder that can come in and listen to both sides and issue a neutral, informed opinion as to what is there, what is available, and provide that as a basis for settlement that can still be rejected or accepted by the company and the union, we may be able to avert the confrontation that's just around the corner.
Hormel tentatively accepted the governor's offer, and while it says it will continue to take applications to replace strikers,
we would agree to delay the actual opening of the Austin plant until such time as that process could be completed.
The union local also accepted the governor's proposal to sit down with Hormel again.
We both have to confront each other, something that has not happened before any resolution is going to take place. And we welcome the governor's fact finder in getting that process started to get a resolve to the dispute.
Tonight, Local P9 is also accusing Hormel of canceling a meeting set up for tomorrow. Hormel, however, denies any meeting was ever scheduled or canceled. Hormel says it believes it's time to stop the accusations and wait for the neutral fact finder to come down to Austin and try to get it settled.
Does this set a precedent for the governor to step in during a dispute between a company and union workers?
I think possibly it could. I'm told by Paul Goldberg, state mediator, the governor has not done this before. In fact, it may not have been done for some decades in the state of Minnesota. It's an extraordinary move, as the governor put it in his letter.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Fears that interest rates will stay up brought Wall Street down today. In fact, way down. When the final bell rang out, the Dow Jones Industrial Averages had dropped more than 39 points, and that is the biggest one-day drop in the history of the market, even bigger than the plunge at the beginning of the Great Depression. Local stocks were pretty much untouched by the drop, however. Cray Research and Honeywell were the big losers in our area, but even their drop was relatively minor. Most of the losses came in blue-chip stocks. Just 2 weeks ago, the stock market threw a party for itself, celebrating a year that saw an increase of more than 300 points. Analysts say today's bear market is simply a reaction to discouraging news on interest rates and some profit-taking. And they all agree it is not a sign of an impending stock market crash.
The number of people out of work also took a tumble today. According to Labor Department statistics, the nation's jobless rate fell by 0.1% in December. That slim statistical drop was good enough to push unemployment to its lowest level in 6 years, and the lowest it's been since Ronald Reagan became president. The man who had founded and now heads the financially troubled Control Data Corporation may be stepping down. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that William Norris plans to resign his position as chairman and chief executive officer of the Twin Cities-based firm. It's expected, however, that he will remain on the board of directors. Amid reports of youth gangs and growing youth crime problems in the city, Mayor Don Fraser plans to launch a major new program next week. It's a 20-year community-wide program to combat the city's youth problems. It calls on businesses, churches, government, and service agencies to help provide a better place for children to grow. As Dave Nimmer reports, it will be outlined in Fraser's State of the City address next Wednesday, timed to coincide with the birthday of Martin Luther King, Jr.
At first glance, Minneapolis is vigorous and vital, a booming downtown and a healthy retail trade. But Mayor Fraser worries about another side of the city, where 20,000 children live in poverty, where minority unemployment exceeds 40%, and where 1/2 of the public school students are raised in one-parent families, and where often that one parent is working.
If you think of the city as a ship, it's kind of hard to think of one end staying afloat while the other is sinking. We are one community, and if the disparities become too great, these tensions will rise, the social health of the community will be damaged, and there is a prospect for increasing levels of violence.
Mayor Fraser, in his address, sets some aggressive goals for the youth board: to develop parent education centers where young parents are taught how to better deal with their children, to expand daycare facilities and to make them available at lower cost, to enlarge the city's youth internship job program from 200 students to all low-income public school students, and to find opportunities for city teenagers to be members of neighborhood boards and government advisory groups. Councilmember Barbara Carlson applauds the mayor's good intentions, but she also worries about the price tag.
Bottom line is, you can come up with all sorts of marvelous ideas, and we have a wonderful public-private partnership in the city of Minneapolis. But who's going to pay for it? You know, am I going to say I'm going to put money into this youth coordinating board and I am not going to plow a street or fix a pothole? What am I elected to do? I'm elected to be creative, but I am also elected to deliver essential services.
The mayor admits there would be a taxpayer price tag for the 20-year youth program. But he says you either pay to help kids when they are little, or you wind up paying more when they become out-of-work adults. With Gordon Bartouche, I'm Dave Nimmer.
Mayor Fraser is charging the Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board, a new intergovernmental agency, with developing his plan.
A triple murder followed by a suicide leaves 2 children, their mother and father, dead tonight in South Dakota. The deaths appear to be connected to stress a supervisor for a farmer's home administration was feeling at work. The supervisor, 38-year-old Bruce Litchfield, shot his wife and 2 children this morning, then turned the gun on himself. He died several hours later at a local hospital. Litchfield's pastor says that a suicide note indicates the tragedy was related to job stress. And the state representative from Elk Point says he is sure the shootings are due to added pressure that Litchfield was feeling because of new, tougher farm loan regulations.
Tonight, Minneapolis police have a man in custody who allegedly beat his girlfriend to death and then set the house on fire. A Minneapolis man allegedly killed 18-year-old Denise Perro in the basement of their house and then set it on fire late last night. Neighbors said they heard him running in terror.
We heard a man running down the street, coming from that direction, going down the street here, and I couldn't really tell. It was real muffled sounds, but it was somebody yelling and screaming, help, or there's a fire somewhere, and he was, you know, trying to give out the address and stuff, and he was really moving really quickly. And
the suspect is being held at a Minneapolis hospital. He's listed in satisfactory condition with burns caused by fire and a drain cleaner. Denise Perro grew up in Chaska and apparently lived with the suspect for the last couple of weeks.
2 Twin Cities men are in custody tonight and suspected of taking part in more than 100 robberies in the metro area. Many of the victims were like Ivis Mitchell of North Minneapolis, elderly women attacked in their garages by men who took their purses and then used their credit cards. Police say most of the victims were probably followed home from supermarket parking lots and that most people are not likely to fight back. In the past 8 months, there have been more than 150 such garage robberies. Police say the suspects probably knew each other and followed the same pattern. They also say between 8 to 10 people may have been involved. Plenty of countries want an end to Libyan terrorism tonight, but it seems very few want that end to come at the expense of their country's economies. President Reagan's call for economic sanctions against Libya is getting a poor response from European countries. Today, American ambassadors visited leaders in England, West Germany, and Italy, trying to convince them that the Reagan plan will help fight terrorism. But those countries are not sold on the idea. For one, because they do a lot of trade with Libya. Some also argue that economic sanctions don't work and that they might lead to more terrorism. Already, troops carrying machine guns are patrolling London's Heathrow Airport.
A final decision today involving instant film that's been developing for quite some time, and it affects camera buffs. A federal court ruled on appeal that Kodak must stop making instant film and cameras starting tomorrow. Polaroid invented instant film and sued Kodak for infringing on its patent. This means if you own a Kodak instant camera, you soon won't be able to get film for it. People stuck with Kodak instant cameras have 3 options. They can exchange them for a Kodak disc camera. They can swap for a rebate book worth $50, or they can trade for 1 share of Kodak stock, also worth about $50. You might still find instant film on store shelves, but Kodak is offering to pay its dealers to return leftover supplies. Now ahead on the 10 p.m. report, a nose spray that prevents colds.
And also ahead, water. The water in a St. Cloud trailer park that's making people there sick. And the water in our lakes that a report says acid rain is getting the best of.
There isn't just one reason the prices at Cub Foods are lower than the prices at a regular supermarket. There are thousands of reasons. Everything we buy in volume. So everything we sell for less. Cub Foods, more than you'd expect, for less.
A few clouds have rolled over America's farms in recent years. And to some people, it looks like farmers have been caught in a storm. But farmers have a way of adapting to uncertainty like no one else, because they deal with uncertainty and risk nearly every day. His adaptability has always allowed the farmer to weather tough times and come out stronger than before. It can happen again, but only if Americans get involved now by reading about, listening to, and understanding the issues that affect our farms. It's essential because our country depends on farmers and the food they produce. And only when the outlook is brighter for the farmer will it be brighter for America.
Come on, boy, let's go back to work.
This message brought to you on behalf of the American farmer by the makers of dual herbicide.
DeKalb Pfizer Genetics.
Think you'll make it back?
How about it, Grandpa?
If it all looks like this, I kind of doubt it.
Hey, Ron, bring the truck. I'm already full.
Might as well go.
Okay.
That first pass says it all.
One pass proves you can't beat DK484.
We all know how rough a cold can be, especially in a cold climate, and how we're told there's no cure. But maybe that's changing. The Food and Drug Administration may soon approve a nasal spray, which researchers think may prevent some types of colds. The spray contains the chemical called interferon. Research shows that the spray prevented colds in 80% of the cold viruses that are out there to get us.
Now, folks living in a mobile home park near St. Cloud wonder what kind of sickness is out there to get them, and so do some health officials. The residents are complaining their water is making them ill. Officials have found low levels of bacteria in the water, and they've told the residents to boil the water. More from Tony Vigneri.
This is what one man said he found in the water line to his washing machine: bird feathers. This woman is bringing in bottled water. Her family is having problems.
My 6-year-old daughter has had headaches for the last 6 weeks, stomach aches off and on, bloating, just not feeling too well. So I've stopped drinking the water altogether.
Last month, during routine testing here, very low levels of bacteria were found in the park's water supply. 700 people rely on the water here. It wasn't serious enough to shut down the system, but health officials did recommend that residents boil the water before drinking.
What the positive test result was a indication that there may be some contamination entering the system.
In the last month, there has been an increase in flu-like illnesses, but Claire says there is no connection between the illnesses and the bacteria.
We did find people that indeed were ill within the park, but not at numbers that could be more than might be expected in a population of a little over 700 people.
The park manager, meanwhile, is redoing the filtering system, cleaning the water lines, and disinfecting the water supply.
Right now, we are doing our very best to try to take care of the situation.
And despite concerns by the state health department, several residents say they don't think there is anything wrong with the water, and they drink it without boiling it.
But we've been drinking it and cooking with it, and nobody seems to have gotten sick at our place.
Health officials say there has been an overall increase in flu-like illnesses in central Minnesota, but they reaffirm that the bacteria found in the water here is not what's making the people sick. They say a common wintertime virus is doing that. Tony Vigneri, WCCO Television News, St. Cloud.
You may be among those people who subscribe to the statement that we never know when it's our time to go, but maybe some of us do. Today in Patterson, California, a 15-year-old boy was buried. 3 weeks ago, he told his mother he was going to die and that he wanted his heart given to his girlfriend who needed a heart transplant. The boy had been in perfectly good health. But Saturday, Felipe Garza collapsed and died from a brain hemorrhage. His girlfriend did receive his heart. She's doing well tonight in a San Francisco hospital.
It wasn't long ago that many people were saying that Mary Lund would be lucky to make it out of a coma. But tonight she is out of intensive care and into the cardiac unit, and that's where less critical patients stay. Mrs. Lund is sitting up several times a day, and she is now on an exercise program. His name is synonymous with the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, but the two will soon part ways. Pinchas Zukerman plans to leave his job as director of the orchestra because he wants less administrative work and more music. Bill Carlson reports on today's announcement.
The surprise decision was announced as the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra is in its 6th season under the baton of Zukerman, and after the orchestra board had voted to extend his contract through the end of the decade.
It was at a private, and I am told quiet, meeting this afternoon where the maestro told the members of the orchestra that he would be relinquishing the title of music director as of June 1987.
After the orchestra had been told, and as he warmed up for this afternoon's rehearsal, I think he shared some of the thoughts which led to his decision.
I want you to know, and I want really everyone else to know, that I'm not, St. Paul is not losing a music director. It's really gaining a friend. I would have been here for 7 or 8 years. There's a long time. I've always liked it here. It's a terrific place. It will continue to be terrific. I just don't want to be a music director anymore. And I'm not leaving in anger. I'm leaving that position. I'm not leaving the position as musician. I'm leaving that music directorship chair. Because emotionally, I don't do well with that.
Zukerman does wish, however, to continue his musical association with the orchestra.
To me, music is
is breathing, it's breath, it's oxygen. Without oxygen, you can't live. I'd be dead. Absolutely. There's absolutely nothing else for me.
You're gonna love the way we bring you closer every day. You're gonna love our airline. Midway, our spirit will lift you. Midway, our spirit will lift you. Midway, our spirit will lift you.
Let's talk sports.
Talk with up to 9 other sports fans at once. Call Gab Sports from Northwestern Bell.
What a great call.
I own this property. I'm George Jefferson. Yeah, sure, bud. And I'm Kodak.
The Jeffersons, tonight following the 10 p.m. report.
People say I'm crazy.
Now, exactly who is crazy is yet to be determined. It could be the volunteers working in sub-zero weather trying to build the world's largest ice palace, or it could be the ranks of spectators drawn to the shores of Lake Phelan from as far away as Alaska. One thing for sure, the combination of 40,000 ice blocks to form a 15-story ice castle has to be seen to really be appreciated. It's the kind of undertaking most kids probably think about when they're playing with building blocks early on. Soon, the effort will go night and day to finish the palace on time. Can't wait to see what that looks like.
I think it is a big kids game.
It is. Sure it is.
I can't imagine 40,000 ice, but how many that
I can't
really
either.
is.
How much they weigh. You know, I thought they would be like cinder blocks or something.
No.
Heavy things. Well, hope we can preserve it with the heat wave that we have coming. The 27-degree reading that we have outside right now is the warmest we've been so far this year. Our high for the day, as a matter of fact. Notice the position of these highs. One just over the eastern Great Lakes, one back in the west. Little warm front bisecting those two high pressure areas, and then look at the high temperature map for today. Two distinct areas of cold air, one just to the east of us, right underneath that first high, and the second one back in the west. And here's the 40s and even some 50s in parts of Montana today, right to the east of the Rockies, because they're getting a lot of Chinook effect over the Rocky Mountains, and that's warming them up. We're getting some of the benefits of that, but it's got to come along a big snow field before it gets to us, so the temperatures are cooling off a little bit. Our high today, as we said, 27. Our current reading is above the average for the first time in a long time as well. Low was at midnight last night, 11 below. We've been warming up ever since. Well, the radar, or the weather guide does, the radar, I was right, does show that we have some precipitation down in the south. Now, last night, that was in the form of snow all the way down into parts of Texas, snow and freezing rain. There's also some rain over in parts of Florida, some rain off the east coast, but nothing showing up over us. And with that snow down in Texas, look what it did to the snow cover map. That's right, it brought the snow all the way down into western Texas, at least early this morning. We still have about 12 inches of snow on the ground, and there's still a lot of snow there, and that's why even though the winds are warming up as they come across those Rockies, they've got to come across that entire snowfield before they get to us, and that tends to cool them off a little bit. We're mostly cloudy outside right now with the 27-degree reading, 66% humidity, southwest winds at 21, wind chill of 0, and the barometer is 30.09, and it's falling right now. Our weather map for tomorrow does have a cold front staying to the north of us, so we're going to stay on the south side, the warm side of things. In fact, the warmest temperatures tomorrow that we've seen maybe in a few weeks, maybe even in a couple of months. We should see temperatures in the mid to upper 30s here tomorrow over most of the state, at least in the southern part of the state, with 40s and even some 50s moving into the extreme southwestern part of the 5-state area. Much of the rest of the country kind of staying on the cool side. Partly cloudy, though, for tonight, steady with temperatures in the 20s. warming to around 32 degrees by morning. West-southwest winds at 15 to 25 miles an hour. That's what's helping to bring that warmer area in. 38 for a high tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny skies. West winds at 10 to 20. Tomorrow night we're going to stay mild. If we can call 25 mild, can we call Friday warm with sunny and 37 degrees? Well, let's hope so, because it looks like that's what we're going to have. So we are going to be melting a little bit of the snow and the ice during the daytime hours. The extended outlook keeps us in the 30s until above freezing until Sunday for daytime highs, and then drops us back off again the first part of next week. Overnight lows dropping from the 20s down into the single digits again. So I don't think we're going to melt any ice blocks out there.
This is a quick January thaw, isn't it?
Very quick.
Very short.
Hope that isn't the only one either.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. Tonight, Minneapolis police say they will probably file charges against a Maplewood man who allegedly ran a red light and then crashed into an MTC bus. The accident took place this morning near the University of Minnesota's West Bank. 2 passengers flew out of the car, wound up under the bus. One man crawled out, but the other had to be pried loose from the bus by rescue workers. The car's passengers and the bus driver were treated at a local hospital and then released. Meanwhile, today, former Minneapolis Assistant City Attorney Emanuel Surstock was arraigned in district court. He is charged with misconduct by a public official. Today's charges stem from Surstock's indictment by a Hennepin County grand jury for fixing parking tickets. And still ahead on the 10 p.m. report, rain, more rain.
A report from Washington on the toll that acid rain is taking all across the country, and a new 5-year, $5 billion plan to try to remedy that situation.
Years ago at mealtime, there was always fresh homemade bread. Now, Country Hearth Breads bring back the taste of the past. Made with hearty wheat and grains, buttermilk, and honey, Country Hearth Breads are naturally wholesome. This week, 7 whole grain bread is on special at your favorite store. Delicious at breakfast or at any meal, Country Hearth's 7 whole grain bread. Enjoy nature's gift of goodness. Bring home the family of Country Hearth Breads. Country Hearth Breads, they're naturally good.
We understand there are still a few Minnesotans who haven't discovered the light rock sound of W Light. You're not one of them, are you? Light rock, less talk. W Light 103 FM.
Acid rain could cloud Minnesota's claim to fame as the land of 10,000 lakes, because experts tell us that about 2,200 lakes in the state are vulnerable to acid rain damage. More than 1 million acres of forest land could also be hurt by the problem of acid rain. And tonight, President Ronald Reagan and Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney have proposed solutions on their respective desks.
It is a proposal and study that recommends the two countries work together to solve a common problem. But Minnesota's leading acid rain activist in the U.S. House says the recommendations are nothing more than a sham. Skip Loescher has details from our Washington newsroom.
While a specific reduction of sulfur dioxide emissions from coal-burning power plants is not called for, the report by the U.S. and Canadian envoys does conclude that acid rain is an increasingly serious problem. And it recommends that the U.S. begin a 5-year, $5 billion program to test new cleanup technologies. Government and industry would split the cost, but industry would decide which projects to undertake.
You don't need $5 billion to develop some kind of science fiction Buck Rogers approach.
Sikorsky says doing what NSP and Minnesota Power and Light companies are already doing at their Allen S. King and Cohasset plants, that is, burning low-sulfur coal and using scrubbers, will eliminate 95% of the pollutants which cause acid rain. That's what Uncle Sam should require all utilities to do, he says. But Sikorsky says giving industry taxpayers money and the veto power over how to spend it doesn't make any sense.
This whole process is a lot like the drunk who goes around and checks with the mother-in-law, checks with the minister and priest, checks with everyone and says you should stop drinking. Then goes to the bartender and says, I'll give you $5 billion if you tell me how I can stop drinking. That's what we've got here.
While Sikorsky says the report may take some heat off the Reagan administration, he won't vote for the program because he says it will do nothing to rid the U.S. or Canada of acid rain. Skip Loescher, CCO News, Washington.
Serious problem. We're going to talk a little bit about a lot of sports, but Baseball's Hall of Fame.
Baseball number 1, the Hall of Fame. Willie McCovey makes it on the first time around, and you couldn't get in to watch a Bears practice if you were Yogi Berra himself. Hey, boo-boo. Yogi Berra? Yogi Bear. We'll be back in a minute.
A lot of HMOs have doctors dancing to their tune these days. But not HMO Minnesota. We don't tell doctors how to treat you or how often they can see you. You see, we're dedicated to keeping doctors independent. Because that's the best way to keep you healthy. No strings attached.
Way to go, Minnesota! HMO Minnesota!
Weekdays, there's so much to see.
He has a bunny.
Yeah.
So much to hear.
Mom is really listening now.
And so much to know.
I can't believe you guys asked these questions.
About love and marriage.
Who likes carrots?
I do.
That we've got to laugh. It's Bob Eubanks and today's newlyweds together again. Because being married is still fun. Weekdays at 3 on Channel 4.
I guess I was pulling for Roger Maris, just out of a sentimental favorite, and thought maybe they'd let him in this year.
He will get in.
Yeah,
of course,
catfish.
you do have a number of years, and then, of course, you have to go to the old-timers, but I'm sure he will get in before that. 22 years, though, and 521 home runs later, Willie McCovey reaches nirvana. We should say that, because that's baseball's equivalent of heaven. At least Cooperstown, and it awaits former San Francisco Giants slugger after they voted him in on McCovey's first year of eligibility. He is the 16th player to be named on the first ballot. McCovey is the National League's all-time left-handed home run hitter. McCovey's margin, a comfortable one. But think about how Billy Williams must feel. The ex-Chicago Cub missed entry into the Hall of Fame by 1 percentage point. Williams hit .290 lifetime, had 423 home runs and over 2,700 hits. Pitcher Catfish Hunter finished 3rd in the balloting, followed by Jim Bunning. The late Roger Maris was 5th in the voting. In the Big Ten, the Wolverines are not an endangered species, but their undefeated record nearly went by the wayside tonight. Coming up, Michigan will inbounds the ball against Illinois while holding a 2-point lead in the final seconds. Ephraim Winters steals a pass, however, Bruce Douglas scores. It ties the game. The action continues now down court. Robert Henderson puts up a shot and in at the buzzer for Michigan's 61-59 win over Illinois. Michigan is now on 20 straight at home in Chrysler Arena. Incidentally, the Gophers next play at Iowa on Saturday. Imagine an accident in the kitchen may keep Irving Fryer out of the AFC title game. The All-Pro New England kick returner damaged the tendons in his ring finger and the small finger when he cut them accidentally with a kitchen knife today. From kitchen knives to cloak and dagger, the Chicago Bears love the privacy of their workout camp in Swanee, Georgia. Bearing the motto, trust no one, security guards are having a heck of a time keeping fans and, yes, maybe L.A. Rams scouts away from their practice.
We've had several people try to get in on the woods over here on this side of Swanee complex here. A couple of other officers caught some people in camouflage.
Camouflage?
Camouflage. They're in the woods back there laying down and caught a few people.
Camouflage. Security encounters of the real kind have put Tony Robinson in a real mess. Tennessee's quarterback top-rated Auburn. One other player was involved, Robinson's roommate, B.B. Cooper. Formal charges are expected to be filed tomorrow. Well, they've made some changes in the St. Paul City Hockey Conference this season. The powerful teams like St. Thomas, Hill Murray, Cretin, they only play the perennial weaker teams once. But maybe they ought to eliminate the mismatches altogether. Case in point, watch the lack of excitement by the St. Thomas players after scoring goals tonight in their game against Como Park. This goal by cadet Scott Satterley. It's certainly not the fault of any of the players on either team. It's simply a mismatch. Watch this. Absolutely no excitement or emotion here. They're not even skating, as you can see. St. Thomas was the easy winner in that game, 9-3. Here's another case in point, 8-1. Hill Murray was a winner over Highland Park tonight. The North Stars, another story, open back-to-back home games on Friday, beginning with the L.A. Kings at the Met Center tonight in the National Hockey League. Chicago leads New Jersey 5-4 in the third. Look at that score. Toronto beating Edmonton 11-9. I haven't heard how many Gretzky got in that game. Montreal 5-3 over Boston, and Pittsburgh defeats Los Angeles 7-3. Donald?
You think Billy Williams will get in next?
I think he will the next trip around. You're that close, you have to.
You bet. All right, thank you very much, RJ. Well, you don't have to tell Herschel that the fishing's good in Seattle. Herschel knows firsthand he's a sea lion who migrated from the sea to a dam where steelhead trout pause before climbing up a special spawning ladder. Problem is, the other fishing folks say the sea lion has an unfair advantage over them, so for the past couple of days, the local game warden declared war. If you believe this, they started bombing Herschel and his buddies with underwater firecrackers. And tonight, Herschel has retreated back out to sea. Once again, the humans are catching fish. Why don't they leave nature alone? Will
I'm
they ever
rooting
learn?
for Herschel.
I'm for Herschel myself.
The underdog, or in this case, the underlion.
The underlion? She's back.
Break out the suntan lotion and put away the mittens. According to Mike Fairbourne, it's going to get all the way up to 38 degrees tomorrow. We hope you can enjoy the day and rejoin us then again tomorrow. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
The 10 p.m. Report with Pat Miles and Don Shelby. Mike Fairbourne's weather and Mark Rosen Sports has been a presentation of WCCO Television. Serving